In the quiet moments before the world wakes up, there's a place where pain meets peace, where every breath feels like a prayer and grief stands still. We carry the weight of what was and search for meaning in the smallest things. And sometimes all it takes is one moment to remind us we're still here, still healing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynn. I am the host of this podcast, and guess we are your number one podcast for bringing you stories around death, down, and grief, all the messiness that comes in between with some amazing people out here changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, before I bring on the next guest, I would like to say, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, this is a live stream, so if you have any questions or comments for either myself or my guests, please put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, big shout out to my other show, you know what I'm saying, that I'm co-host on the Connect Work. You know what I'm saying? Go find us on YouTube, subscribe over there, because we doing some amazing things every Tuesday and Thursday morning. You know what I'm saying? 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Tune in, come and vibe with us. Now, with that being said, I'm about to bring on my next guest. Guys, help me welcome Jackie to the show. Jackie, how you doing?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for having me, Tony. I'm actually doing okay. A little full from yesterday, of course. Some pretty exciting times over here. At our house, played Uno until late into the night.
Oh, don't you start with me. Don't you do not start with me talking about Uno. Okay.
Oh yeah, Uno, it was for sure.
Well, at least I can say it's not Monopoly. I've seen families getting into fights over Monopoly. Okay, so
Yeah.
and for everybody out there, hopefully you guys had an amazing Thanksgiving, and everything, and tuning in with us today. You know what I'm saying? So again, amazing conversation that we're going to have today. You know what I'm saying? Now, Jackie, before we get into your journey, introduce yourself to the audience. So tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Okay, well, I'm Jackie Suzanne, and I am coming to you guys right now from Eastern Oregon. I'm in a real rural area of Oregon. We're in Harney County, which is the largest county in Oregon with the very least amount of population that Oregon has. So we are, we're very rural out here. We're kind of on the Idaho, Nevada, Oregon tip right there.
Yeah.
So we're considered a high desert. We get, some pretty good extreme weather, real cold in the winter and real kind of hot in the summer. So that's where I'm at right now. The work I do, I would say, is a lot of, it's come out of my story, which we'll get into, but I am a Reiki master teacher, quantum healer, and also intuitive. So do a lot of spiritual guidance, a lot of automatic writing, and able to kind of tune in, tap into people's guides and their hear from their higher selves, help them out a little bit, help empower them to know that there's more out there than what we can see, touch, and feel.
I love that. And I want to say, first and foremost, thank you for the work that you do. Very important work, especially in the line of work that we do. And it's still in its infancy stages, right? We're seeing so many people come around, and we're starting to see the legs starting to grow, right? And so to have that avenue that people can come to for resources, but also, for guidance, because not everybody's going to, everybody's different. And what resonates with them is going to be totally different from across the board, right? So thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I want to get into, let's talk about the work that you do for a bit, right? You know what I'm saying? And what that entails. And I want to pose one simple question. If someone was to come to Jackie and say, I want to hire you for your services, what can they expect?
Well, when someone comes and approaches me, and they want to hire me for, energy healing, intuitive work, what they can expect is um, I really I really like to get a clarification with them. Like I can tell within usually 10 minutes or so what it is we need to do first, what our first step would be. Sometimes it is as simple as, my gosh, you need some energy work. We need to do some work on your chakra system, maybe on your energetic grid. Or maybe there's some deeper levels involved. Maybe they have some ancestral healing that needs to be done.
I
You
like
know,
that.
yeah, and sometimes it is really a matter of they're really stuck in life. Like people have where their energy gets kind of gunked up and their energy doesn't, kind of flow enough. Their chakras aren't open enough. They're not, able to communicate with each other. And then that kind of like in our normal day-to-day waking lives, even something as simple as, what job do I take? It can get
Yes.
somebody very, very just clogged up. It can get them so stuck. The simplest, smallest decisions begin to feel like fatigue. It begins to feel overwhelmed for you to make a decision. And sometimes we'll then turn that in on ourselves and we'll go, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I make a choice? And then you kind of start to beat yourself up about it. So I really like to make sure that I can get show my clients like that there is more going on than just the fact that you can't make a decision. Like let's dig into this. Let's reach in and figure out what's exactly going on so we can start healing that on all levels so that you're not
Mm,
just walking
I like
around,
that.
yeah, there's so much more to I would say healing than just talk therapy or just beating yourself up thinking yesterday I was able to go to the grocery store. I bought $200 worth of groceries. I never got frustrated. I was never overwhelmed, but today I can't leave my car. I'm in the parking lot
Mm,
stuck in my car. And these are real things that happen to real people, and
yeah.
there is so much behind that is going on with our energy systems and our chakra systems and our just our fields that surround us. And there's so much that can be done with some simple breath exercises, with some simple short meditations, with someone just to kind of guide you, help you walk through things, breathe a little bit, and also
Mhm.
do some energy healing on you, do some work on you, maybe
Right.
then help you reach out to your own higher team, to your own higher guidance system.
Mm. I love that you said that because it's been something that I've been exploring for a few months now, right? So I've explored ancestral healing, generational traumas, healing that, right? Intergenerational traumas, and healing that as well. And the one thing that I've been really, really fascinated with is the consciousness healing, right? And listening to what you're saying right now, the consciousness healing is all about the different dimensions of energy that you really have to heal to unblock yourself, right? So and I could be wrong. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm glad I'm glad I got you up here. And, you know what I'm saying? Please correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I want to get your thoughts and opinions and, you know what I'm saying? And a correction if I am. But when it comes down to it, um, you have to be able to heal uh, the different levels of consciousness, like your subconscious or unconscious, and you know what I'm saying, your conscious mind. And we realize those limitations when until it gets to the unconscious mind, because that's unlimited access to energy. So when we talk about grief and things like that, we realize that the people and the things that happen to us carry, how should I say? I'm gonna say it in two ways. It carries a ripple or a paradigm shift in that individual's journey. And you know what I'm saying? And hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? So please correct me if I'm wrong. But this is just something that I was pondering, and I was going, you know what? What if that is a thing, right? Because I'm constantly seeking knowledge and wisdom, right, to be better at what I do. Now, someone who is more experienced at energy healing, what are your thoughts and opinions on that?
Okay, well, I mean, I will go out on the same branch as you and say absolutely it is multidimensional. But what I kind of want to bring it down to more of I would say science in a way, because I believe that the energy healing and especially the quantum healing comes from, like the observer's effect. When you start to look into science and quantum physics and things like that,
Yes.
there is a thing that maybe nothing is happening unless your consciousness observes it, and then that's what makes it happen. So or the double slit experiment, that's like, these are some scientific terms.
Can
I
you
don't.
explain that a little bit?
Okay, so
The split, and then after that, I want to get into quantum healing, right? Because I love that you said that. I love physics, right? You know what I'm saying? But I never thought about healing on a quantum level. So let's go back to the first question. Explain the split healing. Because
okay, well, I mean, I'm
that's
definitely
fascinating.
not. Oops, so sorry. I'm definitely not a physicist or a quantum physicist or anything like that. So my explanation will probably not do it justice. But
Mm,
there is an experiment that we have all done, that we all know about, that where it's like the atom and the photons, and they put
mhm,
it through while they were observing it, and they expected it to go one way, but when nobody was looking, nothing happened.
mm,
It didn't go through either place. And then when somebody was looking, it actually went through the place that they were looking at. So it was the observer's effect. That you'll have to look it up though. Somebody, I'm
No, no,
totally
I
butchering
love
that,
that.
and I'm so sorry to my audience. um it's not the right vocabulary for it, but I feel like it is a very powerful reason why energy healing works. It is a matter of observing it. So it's an invisible energy field. And, we have several different layers of our body, of our energy field. Our first layer is our physical body. It's where we hold our organs, it's where our mind is from. And then we have, the next layer. And, people have fancy equipment that can take photographs of your aura and stuff like that. So whether we can see it or not, it's there, and then we
Mhm,
have the next layer of the body. We would call that the mental body. So that would be more of where your subconscious is and things like that. And then this is only what I myself have seen in my own healing. So I'm not I don't know all, and I'm not the tell all, but I've seen like 6 different bodies. So then we
mm,
have we would say like the astral body. So
I love that.
this would be like the astral realms, so this will be like maybe your ancestors. This would be where we would connect with spirits. This would be where we would connect with our higher selves in the astral realm, and then our layers just keep going. So I believe, like,
Mm,
when we have issues with grief or with anything, that needs to be treated on every layer of our physical body, branching all the way out to our quantum body. So
okay.
that's how I do my healings. And that could be as much as, doing your chakra healings in one layer of your body, or doing, if somebody's really got something going on in their life and they've got a pattern or a trauma they just can't get over, I find that it shows up in every layer of their body, and every layer
Mm,
needs to be healed. So energetically, and then of course, we cannot forget that we're humans. We cannot bypass the human part of healing, which is oftentimes, talk therapy, support, things like that. So I feel like it all goes hand in hand.
yeah. I and again, I totally agree with you. And as you were speaking about that, I was thinking about the quantum dimensional healing that has to go along with that, right? You know, and when you trace a person's lifeline back to when a child, right? But then you start begin to look at their parents and their parents before them, and et cetera. That goes into ancestral healing, but also intergenerational healing, as well as generational healing. If I'm, and I I want to say this the right way. I do believe that makes up the quantum sections. Now, I do believe I'm missing some sections in there, and I'm still a student of this thing, right? I love Greek, right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm always looking at ways of how others may perceive it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I want to be a good steward in certitude to other people. And so thank you for that, because it really makes me expand on the knowledge that I've obtained and realize that I haven't even scratched the surface of what I know.
Yeah, I don't think very many of us have scratched the surface of what's actually going on. So, I mean, absolutely. I think we're always all going to be, teachers and students at the same time,
Right.
for sure.
Now, with this field being such a new field, right? And we're still in the adolescent stages of watching it grow, right? Since I've been doing, I know there's people out there that's been doing it way longer than me that have way more knowledge than I do in their respective field, right? Now, when it could just be me, when I look out with everyone that has I've partnered with, and have, shared their gifts with me, I realized that we're, like just in this area right here, we have over 500,000 different areas that people, have specialized in the name of grief, right? Um, what is the biggest lesson that you have learned during your journey of becoming who you are today?
I think the biggest lesson I have learned and what has driven me to really get into more of the energy work, the quantum, and it is that death, that consciousness survives death. That when we exit this physical body, that is not the end of us. I feel that I was really programmed in a manner of either through just what we learn in school, especially, I'm of a certain age and vintage that I, have a little bit of like the way that we learned in school, the way we were educated, it was, very much materialism. If you can't see it, touch it, feel it, smell it, it's not real. It didn't happen. And I'm surprised how programmed I was with that. And also, you got some religious programming that happens. I think, and I wasn't even raised in like a religious household, but later on in my life, I was in church a lot. And so that had a lot to do with it. But it's mind blowing when you step out of that and you do your own searching. You start to, open your mind and expand, your consciousness and what you're willing to, look at. Because I think so many of us close it off. I did, absolutely. I mean, if I hadn't had what happened in my life make me go, oh my God, I need to know what else is out there, I wouldn't have looked. I wouldn't have known it. I would have just said, whatever I was told is what's real. And that's, and that's that. So I think that what really drives me was like you looking for consciousness, trying to understand after you lose someone, where they go. And, broaden your horizons. And I am blown away at the fact that consciousness survives death and that death is just not the end. And I feel very comfortable being able to sit here and say that today because I just have so much evidence of it. I just have had so much experience with that.
Now let's talk about that a little bit. How did you get into this work? And two-part question: how did you get into this work, and what was your aha moment that made that you grabbed onto and made sense of everything?
Well, my journey, the majority of my journey started December 16th of 2022. My oldest son, Devyne, was murdered. And he was 28 years old. He was an absolute delight. I mean, he was kind of a grumpy guy, but I mean, as far as like his lifestyle, oh gosh, he was just like such a straight, clean cut kid, you know, like super. He was very moral. He was really he really was into church, and he really lived his life with a very black and white, you know, type idealism. And so to lose someone like that tragically, violently, unexpectedly at that age, that is definitely why I started searching. And I didn't have a lot of spiritual background, but I did have some. Because 2.5 years before that, I had actually suffered a relapse in my alcoholism, and I had a terrible fire in which I died in and was resuscitated. Now, I didn't come back with a cool, you know, NDE experience, which is a near-death experience for people who don't know. But I definitely came back with I need to know like what did happen if I died and I didn't make it back, like what would have happened to me. So I did start to really dive into near-death experiences. I read some amazing books. I read like Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters. I read Journey of the Souls by Michael Newton, and I watched a million near-death experience interviews. And I thought that was for me, that was because I, you know, I had this experience, but then I think I realized like that was just the universe helping me out, because Devyne, what happened to Devyne, if I didn't have that little bit of background, I clung to that. Like when he was murdered and he was gone from this earth, like every near-death experience I ever heard and what happened to them, and you know, the consciousness surviving, like I held on to that for dear life. It was all I had. It was the only sanity that I had, that my son was okay, that he was somewhere. And that gave me such motivation to start to pursue it. So that was my reasoning. And then I have to say that the reason why I'm a Reiki master teacher, the reason why that I do quantum healings, the reason why that I work with people in grief on an energetic level, as well as a human, I love you, I'll be there for you level, is I actually received a Reiki session 8 months after Devyne had been murdered. And it was by another mom who'd lost her son as well. And something just happened. It was the first time in 8 months that I had any peace. It just felt like for even just the briefest of minute. And if you've ever been in grief that is just so dark and so horrible and so deep and murky, that minute, that second of just peace, that second of like reprieve, and I must have taken a breath like for the first time in 8 months. I felt like I finally breathed, and it was, you know, 30 minutes or so of reprieve from what was going on in my life and in my world. And at that moment, I don't know what it was, but I just said, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn to do this, and I need to do this for other parents, because losing a child is a kind of grief that I can't even explain. I don't think anybody can actually put it into words unless you experience, which I pray that nobody has to experience it. But that is why I got into Reiki and why I'm a Reiki master teacher.
And you said a lot of things right there. You know, I want to touch on the child loss aspect, right? Because although I have experienced child loss, I've experienced it in a different way. And it was the same thing, just in a different form of murder, right? You know what I'm saying? I had to go through the medical system, and through their lack of giving a damn.
I'm so sorry.
I had to lose my son, right? Because they didn't want to listen to, you know, saying some simple things that, hey, stop doing this and maybe focus on this. But they thought that they was right. And eventually I paid the, you know, myself and his mother paid the price of, you know what I'm saying, losing our son. Now, when I say that, I don't take away, you know what I'm saying, or minimize what you've gone through, right? Because I have another friend, her son was murdered as well. right? And again, amazing people out here doing some amazing things, right? You know, say she do support groups for parents who have gone through similar things, right? And I don't know what that's like. Now, we have from my different experiences, I've experienced loss of, you know, childhood. You know, I lost a friend of mine to cancer. Um, Same age, probably about 10, 11 years old, and things like that, which was pretty much unheard of where I was from, but it did happen. I look at you now, and it reminds me of the look that his mother had on his face, because the last time I saw him, she was able to see him walk across the stage and get his diploma from middle school. And that was the, you know, and then after that he ended up passing away. Um, when let me retract a little bit. Do you find now that your circle is full of individuals that have experienced similar things to yourself?
Yes. I have it is amazing how connected we all are without even knowing it, and
Mm.
how our energy fields are connected, and how our higher selves and our higher guidance does support us. So I have an interesting, I belong to Helping Parents Heal, which is an amazing support group for people
I've
who've
heard of
lost
it.
their children.
Yeah.
And they, we really kind of go one step further than most support groups. We are, allowed to then talk about the afterlife, and they provide resources, safe resources, I would say, and people who are very educated in consciousness and where it goes after death, and mediumship and things like that as well. And they have a
Mhm.
beautiful conference oh my gosh, it was 1,100 people there, of people who'd lost their children. And um it was so interesting. I was fairly early on in my journey as well, and I certainly wasn't I was still very sad. I will just say that. And it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
difficult for me to be somewhere listening to so much death. And, but then, there's also hope in that, because people who've been on the journey longer, they're the ones doing the speaking. They're the ones doing, the inspiration, making you see like everything might be okay, if you can just make it through where you're at now. But I remember
Mhm.
I would be in a room, and I didn't know that many people there. I'd be in a room with, 100 different people, and I end up shoulder to shoulder next to somebody, start to, and just feel, I don't know, just feel drawn to them, start to have a conversation, and find out their child had been murdered.
Yeah.
I remember, oh my gosh, I was in the bookstore part of this conference, and the same thing happened. I was sitting there looking at some book titles, and there was a woman next to me, and all of a sudden it's like the hair on my head was just standing up, like it was like static electricity. And I said out loud, I said, gosh, there's a lot of energy in this room. I thought maybe it was the books. And she's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I feel that too. And we come together, and we come to find out that we both live in Oregon. Both our sons were murdered on video, and that both of us had suffered losing our grandchildren to the court
Mm.
system afterwards. So I was bawling. I mean, I had tears streaming down my face, holding and hugging this woman, because it felt like I was the only human being on the face of the earth that had ever had to feel that pain. And come to find out right there, so we were magnetized together. We were pushed together. And
Mm.
so, and that happened throughout that weekend at the conference. So
Mm.
I feel like in many ways I have um gotten a new circle of people who've gone through what I've gone through. But I feel like I'm very blessed, because my original friend group, my original family, people that have been in my life for a long, long time, are also still with me. So I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily lose people and gain people. I know how blessed I am for that reason. I think some of that was because I was very vocal about my alcoholism and my journey.
Mhm.
And I had built up quite a support from my friends and family over that anyway. And Devin, he was so loved. We live in a small town in a small community in Prineville, Oregon. And he was just celebrated there. He was a great kid. He'd been, he went to school there. He got, married there. He had a fiance there. So I feel really blessed because I not only retained all the love and support from the people who were already in my life, but I actually gained more after that.
Okay. I love that because it goes back to a statement or a phrase that I heard a long time ago, and it was find your tribe, right? You know what I'm saying? And what you just said right there is just a perfect example of us finding our tribe unintentionally. You know what I'm saying? Like we know where we need to be. We know how we need to be around other people that have gone through similar things so we can learn, but also to be supported and connected to so we can heal. And hopefully, hopefully we can find a way to see the smiles in the tragedy that we've gone through. Now, I say that to say this, right? Because during the time that you've been doing the work that you do, what are the things that you've seen that have improved over time?
You mean with clients, especially grieving clients?
Within not just within the clients, but within the communities and how they look for support now.
Well, so it will be 3 years coming up December 16th. And I think just in the short amount of time that I have been sort of, I would say, submerged and involved, I feel like people are so much more open to spirituality, to energy, to modalities, energy healing, and to where we go when we leave this world. I'm surprised. Every day it feels like somebody that I would have never expected to agree with me or to say, oh my gosh, yes, I get signs from my mother, or I'm like, whoa, I never would have expected to hear that. And actually, I had a really great example of that. This little town that I live in, it's very conservative, like I said, very rural. And I was super surprised. I went to a doctor's appointment, and I was sitting there and I was listening to some nurses talk about that they were seeing signs from their spirit guides. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. That really made me think this is becoming much more open. It's becoming much more embraced and tolerated. And it's not anything like I thought it was, people wearing tinfoil hats or shysters or, I really did have not a good, I just didn't have a good concept of what, mediumship or spirituality, or energy healing or any of that was. I had a negative concept of it. So I'm finding every day I'm seeing a more and more people open about that.
Nice. I love that, and the reason why I started laughing is because it made sense to me. And I was like, I totally get that. Totally get that, right? But I love your personal mission of understanding where we go when we transition out of this realm, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I have a theory, right? And the theory is that when we leave a realm, we transition to another one, right? You know what I'm saying? As infants, like this life, this dimension is already done. We, maybe we achieve what we're set here to do. Sometimes we're not. And sometimes when we transition, it gives us another opportunity to be able to do that in the next dimension, right? Which leads to multiple dimensions. which I do believe they say it's very simply put, it's dimensional and quantum lives that we live, and one life really affects the other. So, say for instance, right? You know what I'm saying? Maybe you don't do what you're supposed to do in this life, and you pass away. Maybe you wasn't the best of people, but when you pass away, I think that burden, that pressure, is there for you in the next life until you decide that you're going to do something different. And it gives you maybe a little bit closer to what you're supposed to do. So I'm thinking and this could just be me, right? You know what I'm saying? But I think it's an interesting theory. But I believe that every life that we go through, we get closer and closer to fulfilling the purpose that we're actually put here for. So one life is going to look different than the next one. Like, we're not going to remember this when we go to the next one. We're going to be born into new parents, etc. We may be even born a boy or a girl. You know what I'm saying? Something totally different from what you are right now, to give you the perception of seeing life through a different lens. But you still have interstellar knowledge, right? And I believe it's, you know what I'm saying, the closer that we get to fulfilling that purpose, that knowledge becomes more apparent. So, and the reason why I say that, because I know I've seen some children that at a very early age, they know exactly what they want to do in life. Whereas individuals like ourselves, we have to get punched in our head a couple of times, you know what I'm saying, because we stubborn, right? You know what I'm saying? And then then you have to have somebody there, like the flight instructors outside with the orange cones, talking about go this way, go this way, go this way, right? You know, and I think that's what we are right now. We finally saw it. We finally saw them waving us through. That could be just for in the next dimension, in the next life, right? Because I do believe in recycling, so to speak, right? You know what I'm saying? Until we become the ultimate version of who we're meant to be in that time frame. And again, I could be totally wrong. I'm still a student at this. But it's also, but it's something fascinating that I have been exploring. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. So this is kind of like where I was saying that I was so programmed at one point that I would never entertain reincarnation, recycling, however you want to say it, or interdimensional, expansion more than any. I would have never entertained that. However, I have, I just, I guess I wrote a book, and it's called From Murder to Messages. And that's sort of like how we met, was because I'm going to be launching this beautiful book. And I, in the book, I did go through some things, that I personally have done on a journey, looking for where our consciousness goes, looking for where my fucking son is. I want to find him. He can't have just gone completely. I just knew it. I just knew he couldn't have just left. I'd be completely gone off this earth, off of anywhere. So I just went on to find him. And one of the things I did was experienced a past life regression and a life in between life regression. So I can only speak from my own personal experience. I can't say that other people are reincarnated. I believe they probably are, based on what I know and the communication I've had with my son, where he's at. But I definitely have to say that there was lifetimes that I've lived with all my children that isn't this lifetime. And I have seen that after I leave this lifetime, I will go to another one. Probably. I mean, we all say, like, those of us that are in a lot of grief, we say, this is our last life. We're never doing this again. But that might not be true. Because there are lessons and experiences that we want to have. And I think so. Sometimes it's hard to get all of this out to somebody who doesn't have the same experiences that I have, or that might think I'm, lost my mind or bonkers,
Mhm.
But I really believe that we chose most of this lifetime, that we came in and had previously decided like what challenges we want.
Mm.
And I have to say, the only thing some people will say, you have to learn your lessons, and that somewhat has a negative sound to it, like we're being punished. And that's how
Mm.
I felt, and sometimes still feel like, gosh, I have these lessons to learn, and that's why things are so shitty and challenging for me. And that's maybe not quite true, because when you realize and you have the experience that I got to have, which is where I went to a past life regression and I saw myself planning and my spirit team planning this coming lifetime, that you're not a victim in it anymore.
Right.
You're not being victimized. Like, your soul wanted these experiences for a specific reason, to grow.
Mhm.
And so it's maybe not for everybody, but for me, that's a hard line to toe. Like, being able to continually say, I'm not a victim. I chose this, like, I wanted this experience. My soul wanted this experience. But the more you can have the experience and understand that it is possible, that I did make a plan before I came here, and say, I want to experience, I've experienced some really tough things. I
Mm.
experienced a lot of addiction, sexual abuse, obesity, teen pregnancy. I don't know. I think if you could name something that people wouldn't want to have to go through in their lifetime, it's definitely, I've probably been going through it. And so I really feel like, as long as I keep that experience and that understanding that I came here to experience this, so I could learn, so I could expand, so that I could go into the next lifetime, or go back to, home, go back to heaven with all of this knowledge, and share it with other people in heaven.
Mm. You know what? I love that you said that, because I agree. But and I see like different areas of it as well. And I could be wrong when I say this, right? Because it's something that I've always felt since I've been doing this work like this. I know this is what I'm supposed to do, and I honestly believe that through lives that I've lived, I'm so much closer to achieving a purpose that I'm supposed to have been put here for, through knowledge that I never even knew nothing about, but I still have it, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's where I look at not shared knowledge throughout the recyclation of past lives, right? And now I could be wrong with that, right? You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes I'm like, why would you send me back here if you're just going to do this? Now, I agree with you when you say, we choose the suffering that we go through when we're supposed to put here. But I also say some of that we didn't choose. And what I mean by that, because it goes hand in hand, the things that we didn't choose is necessary in order for us to achieve what we need to be, right? So it's missing knowledge that, what I'm saying, in the past life, we didn't experience, so we didn't have that. So now this experience comes in and pretty much is a giant puzzle piece, right? Of who you are, not anyone else, but this is the puzzle piece of who Jackie, who Tony, who, say anyone else is living in this life in the moment. Because the past does not exist. It's just the memories that we carry. So, and I say that to say, I do believe that we carry that those memories, that knowledge, that wisdom with us when we come into this life, going into different parents, right? We get to choose. We get to choose whether or not if we're going to use it. But I think the experiences are there to funnel you, right? You know what I'm saying? And grief that I've learned can change you in a way to where it makes you bitter or it makes you better. right?
Yes.
But everything that comes along with that, the trauma, the addictions and things like that, is all part of the process. And at some point, you get to decide whether or not if this is going to be is if this is going to define your suffering throughout eternity. Right? You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't mean that, you know what I'm saying, that it stops right when you transition, but I think it's carried along with you through ancestral connections. And but I could be
Well,
wrong. So you know,
yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of concepts. And like I said, I can only like talk on the experiences that I've had and
right, yes.
the communication I've had with my son, with my own spirit team, through automatic writing, through, sometimes even like a verbal channel, because from what I I know, like I got really stumped on Devyne's murder. Like, was that
Mhm.
free will? Because probably nobody actually comes down here to do something horrible, because we do all come from love. That's how
Right.
I felt. And that's how some spiritual teachers, talk about too. But then people say, no, people come down here specifically to play the bad guy in order for us, to be able to have these experiences. Without a bad guy, we wouldn't have any way to grow through it. So I got really, and I don't have an answer, but I feel like what happened to Devyne was that person's free will. That was a probability that could have happened and did happen. I got to
Mm.
concern
I
that
like that.
because that was free will, am I off my path? Was I never actually meant to lose my child? Like, so now, so that was a big question that I really, really, I agonized over, sort
Mhm.
of, like,
Understood. Yeah,
yeah,
understood.
because free will, I don't believe that my like when I do my automatic writings with Devyne and stuff, he says if I ask him like, should I do this or should I do that? He's always telling me it's my free will. It's my choice.
Mm.
They don't tell me what I do and don't have to do from heaven, that you have to decide it. But I do think there are probably, I mean, if you choose your parents and your parents, come from, you know, a lot of sexual abuse in their family trees or a lot of physical abuse, obviously you're coming into a household where this could happen. So
Mhm.
I feel like you are, at that point making a choice, to come into parents that this could happen to you.
Mm.
So it's this fine line, but from what I hear from my son and from my spirit team, a lot is free will. Not everything is predestined, and there are choice points, and there are things that were going to happen no matter what. And then there are, well, most of the time you are out here
That part.
to how, like Devyne said, like, how would you be experiencing anything if we already chose what you had to experience and you chose before you came in here? You wouldn't have any,
Mm.
authentic experience that way.
I agree with you. And if I could, I would like to add one little piece to that, right? Because I totally agree with you over there. And in the same sense, I look at this life, this world, the experience. Like the experience is not mine, it's the creators, right? And this comes from lessons that I could be right or wrong about, right? But this is my beliefs. I believe that when the creator created us in its image, right? With the intentions of experiencing this world through us. So every trauma, every sorrow, every tear that we've dropped, I think that's where the saying comes, I know every tear that you've cried before. I knew you before you were born, right? The experience is ours. The knowledge is ours to retain with the intention of the creator having that experience through us. Because if we think about and I don't want to get too religious or anything like that. This is just a thought, right? But when we think about the spiritual realm, and if we believe that we come from a source, we are still newborns in the eyes of the source, right? So everything that we experience is through our own individual feeling that the creator can come and say, oh, okay, I get this now. So they get to experience this life through us, right? You know what I'm saying? Which is a blessing in itself, right? Because they're and through that, I believe that comes guidance, that comes discernment, right? The creator saying, hey, no, don't do this, keeping us on the path that we're supposed to be on, right? And I think that for me, that's just my beliefs when I come down to it. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I'm not here to take away from nobody's because I think it's pretty interesting. I really do. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a blessing for us to be able to experience this life the way that we have, right? Through the chaos, through the ups and downs, and things like through the confusion. I think there's an underlying journey of peace that comes along with it that we're consistently searching for, or maybe it's happiness, depending on the individual, right? But when we talk about such a subject as energy healing, or healing in general, I believe that most people back off because of how much it hurts, the experience of pain, right? Or revealing who we are when we look in the mirror, right? But to be able to take it around and go, I'm going to take this to be able to help others in servitude, to help them not struggle the way that I've done. I think that's where the point of reality and purpose actually merge itself. But again, these are just theories that I've come up with along the way. You know what I'm saying? That I'm still searching. I'm still searching to see if this is, if this is the experience, if this is my experience, or if this is the creator's experience. Right? Maybe my experience and the creator's experience is all one. Maybe he is individual. I don't know. But something for me to chase and understand.
So I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole with you, except for that I've been told but in my writings with Devyne and in my communication with him, he has said, Mom, you are the creator and you are the creation.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that because I agree to that as well. Right. So these are just things that are just merged in together, right? Because the concept is that I can create life as well as take life. Right. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we experience, like yesterday doesn't exist, tomorrow doesn't exist. All we have is very moment that we live from moment to moment. So the next moment doesn't exist until I step into it. Right. And the way that I look at people is that we're all one. Right. You know what I'm saying? And through grief, I feel that grief is the deepest human connection that you can ever have with another individual, right? Because it leaves you vulnerable and open to someone else's pain. And they have the strength to walk through with those individuals, right? You know what I'm saying? To be able to go, it doesn't have to be this way. Because most people never get to the level that you are, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think, and I could be wrong, but I believe that you're an educator and going, no, you don't understand. You don't have to get to the level that I am. You just have to take the small steps into becoming more of who you are in this world. Right. And grief and the things that you've experienced is part of the process of who you're becoming. right? It's like Humpty Dumpty, right? You know what I'm saying? The egg has to crack open in order to be revealed, and then the pieces have to be put together, only to realize that there are some things that we did not need in order to achieve, in order to get to the level that we're achieving to get to. And again, I could be wrong about all of that as well, but I'm often, you know what I'm saying? I'm often following the direction that that I'm supposed to go in. Right? I can't speak for other people because it's not my journey, it's not my path. Right? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, I think that I'm the same way. I can't speak for other people's journeys, and I can't say that there's one certain way or one certain truth that we
Mhm.
are all following. I feel like it's all a matter of our own perceptions, of our own pathways, of our own journeys. And that's why there's so many different ideals out there. That's why there's so many different religions. That's why there's
Mm.
so many different branches of spirituality. If there was only one true right way, we'd all be the same person on this earth,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nobody would be having these different unique experiences. And our creator, in my opinion, created us to have these unique different experiences. So
Yes. Yes.
we wouldn't be having those, and the creator wouldn't have the benefit of having those experiences either with us as one or watching us have it, depending on how a person wants to think of it. If we
Mhm.
all did believe this one way. And so that's something I've had to become like much more tolerant of. And that
Yes.
is, um even on myself, like if I'm doing something, what I say, I'm doing something stupid and I'm making a bunch of mistakes, and then I would be so critical of myself for that. I go, now I got to step back and go, well, wait a minute. you know I'm just having an experience. I it's
Yeah.
a, and the same way with other people in my life, when I'm, what normally maybe I would be, and I still get probably frustrated more than I should, but when I would be normally really pissed off at somebody or whatever, now I got to take a step back and I go, well, wait a minute, maybe this is what their creator and their soul came down here to experience, was what it would
Right.
be like if they fell down that hole, instead of me going and building a fence around that freaking hole in the
Yeah.
ground, because I don't want them to fall in there, because that's my experience. I mean, it is a whole,
Yeah.
definitely is a whole big rabbit hole for sure. But I
No, that's
think
a rabbit
that,
hole that I've been down so many times. I promise you, because like being someone who is striving to be the best at what I do. I'm not trying to compete with nobody. I just want to be the best at what I do, right? You know what I'm saying? And helping men like myself navigate the world of grief, trauma, mental health, and addiction, right? And I sit right there with you, like, okay, like this journey that I'm on is personal, but I believe, and there's going to be people that disagree with me, but I believe that it all stems from self awareness, right? Healing who you are so you can be more open to who others are, right? Like, and it's no disrespect to anyone, but what I'm saying, we can't go through life thinking that, what I'm saying, I can heal off of what someone else did. I have to be able to embrace the journey that I'm on wholeheartedly, and to be open to the connections of others that are around me that are going through something similar, right? Because I believe this life is like a spider web, like you will start off on your journey. And like a spider web, those lines, and we're going to call these lines people. People come along through different sections of it as this web begins to get bigger and bigger. There's people that come along that either going to be there for the long haul or they're not. Now, depending on how they leave, what I'm saying is, I believe that's going to be the test of how you step forward, right? You know what I'm saying? Because every web, every line is going to take you down a different direction, only to put you back where you need to be. Now that's a hell of an experience because you never know what's going to happen in between this point, between this and this point over here, right? But I think that's the beautiful part about it, right? But again, that's this is how I begin to view it, and it makes sense to me, so to speak, right? You know what I'm saying? And then I think most of it is, a lot of it is becoming your authentic self and to leave behind the knowledge that you've been given for others to pick up the torch and carry it along after you're gone. I think once we begin to understand that, we can begin to let go the attachments that we have of this world so we can begin to watch over those that come behind us in the next realm, right? You know what I'm saying? And again, you know what I'm saying? These are just interesting things that, when we talk about grief, is just the tip of the iceberg of what we truly understand in the depthness of it, right? And that doesn't even compare to what the knowledge that's out there for us. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot. So I want to go. I want to go back to something you had said earlier, which I love that. I don't think I'd heard that before. That grief will either make you bitter or make you better. And when you said that, I really thought about that too, because I know that in my own journey of grief, even sometimes I don't understand, because I mean, I have, there's a person, in this world who took my son's life.
Yeah.
And then there's a person in this world who took my grandson away from me. So like, I don't even know like how I've stayed, not bitter, which not, and then to go to the other side, of feeling more loving towards people than before my son was killed. And I thought about this sometimes too, and I just thought that's a really weird reaction. Is to actually be more loving. But I realize though that, and I say early on, meaning like the first year, because that does feel early on to me. But even like the first, we'll say couple of months after he was murdered, it was just so dark, and there was just nothing good. There was nothing good. And then court battles and trial, and leading up to trials and court battles over my grandson and getting, him taken from me. And then having this criminal, alcoholic past that has to get laid open for a judge and God and everybody to know everything I'd ever done wrong. I mean, this is all within a very short window of time, within, a month probably of having my son murdered. So there was just nothing good. So I'm telling you, any spark of light that I saw or could find, I would grab it and I would hold it so tight, and even if it was just something very small and silly, like, a way a flower opened or something, if it wasn't a nightmare that I was living and I could see some beauty in it and some hope in it, I would dwell on that. I would grab onto that and hold on to it, because it was all I had. And I feel like, I'm sure spiritual, teachers and gurus talk about it. And I just, if like living in the moment, finding something, beauty in small things, and people are supposed to be doing that on their day-to-day lives. Well, unfortunately, like you said, we get hit over the head sometimes because we're adults, and, we need a little bit more, guidance, I guess, than a child who would spend, an hour looking at a beautiful flower and having a good time with it. So I that's kind of a weird explanation of that, but I feel like maybe that's why I have become more loving is just because of how much I had to hold on to just the smallest things that shone a light, because everything was so dark for me for so long.
Most definitely. What you said right there touched me in my heart, because I can definitely understand that darkness, a lot of people don't come back out of that. My friend, my brother Terrain, put a comment up here. He says, "Hello, everyone. Much love, Tony." She's right. There's a lot of darkness and grief, and we search for even the smallest rays of light. And I totally agree with that. Saying, if you're ever looking for another show to go on, contact Terrain, man. He's an amazing host. A good friend of mine as well. Now, I don't want to dive too much into it, too deep into it. I think, we could go on forever about that one. I love that. Right? Because there's so many different avenues to just open up for people to understand that there's more to what you're experiencing than just what you see on the surface level. Right? Let's explore the deep embedded roots of where it's actually coming from, so we can begin to heal those parts, so you can begin to live a more purposeful life, more of a life that you don't need a vacation from. Right? To begin to really experiencing, to experience what life is meant to give you, which is peace. And if you're searching for happiness, your perspective or your perception of happiness as well, right? And whatever that is, to be able to make you the best possible version of yourself as you begin to navigate the chaos, and find the balance, the yin and yang in it, right? And I think it's all about balance. It's all about understanding that you can't have one without the other. You can't suffer, and without having, without the reward of accomplishment or peace or expression or experience, those different things. So there has to be some sort of balance. Now, the book, I want to talk about that before I let you go. Talk about the book for a minute, because it's coming out, correct? It's not out yet, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's not out yet. It's set to launch December 16th, which will be 3 years from when Devyne was killed.
Okay. Now tell people about the book and where they can find it when it comes out.
Okay. The book will be on Amazon. I am a self-published author. And the book's called From Murder to Messages. And that's a pretty adequate title. I want to bring some hope, and I want to bring some education of what I've learned of my own experiences and what I have heard from my son, and my spirit team about death, and about where we go afterwards, and that it's not the end. So from Murder to Messages, I kind of take the reader through from finding out about his murder and then getting the signs. And I got a lot of powerful signs from Devyne. I was really grateful about that. And even though early on I wasn't really, I didn't really believe them, and I wasn't really sure what to make of it. Sometimes I did still document some things and take some photographs of things that I were able to put in the book. And so From Murder to Messages, I wanted to, spread on. I wanted to be able to carry some of his messages that I've heard to other people, so that darkness that we talked about, I want to be able to use our experience and Devyne's life as a light, so that they can see that their child or their loved one, their mother, whoever it is that they're aching and missing so much, that's put them in that dark place, that they can see that they are still here, that they do still exist. And that goes a long ways for healing. Now, in my book, I did talk a lot about my family dynamics, my alcoholism, and there was a big piece in there that I realized when I was writing the book, why I rejected his signs so much, and why I didn't feel like, he was reaching me and he was talking to me, was because I just didn't feel worthy. I had so much guilt and so much shame for being that alcoholic who raised him like that. I believed that other people were getting signs, and I believed other people were hearing, even from him, other people were hearing from their children, but it took a lot. And then that's, that piece you were talking about earlier, how a lot of times we don't do this work because it's really hard to look at yourself. It's really hard to look at the truth, and we want to turn away from it. I wanted to turn away from all that pain of realizing like he was gone from this earth, and I had raised him the way that I had raised him, and I didn't have any chance to make it up.
Right.
So I do talk a lot about that. And, I found when I entered into, the more spiritual side of things after he died, that people could be pretty like, you're vegan, this, and I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm saying this was my perception. Before like that, of people who did Reiki or, mediums, or, that there was this weird, everybody was a vegan and nobody, said a cuss word, and nobody had these bad experiences in their life. And I really wanted to make sure that I show up exactly who I was and exactly who I am. I do not want somebody to feel intimidated or like they can't get a sign from their child because they had a past, because they didn't have a good relationship with their child even when they passed. I really wanted to be that encouragement and that truth, and let my story show up so that other people who may feel like I did, which I wasn't worthy to get the signs, which, all that guilt and all that shame tangled up. I want to be able to show up for them and say, look, I was that person. I was probably a way worse person than you were. And I still got signs from my son. He went through all of these things in order to show me that he's okay. To the point where, we talk. He writes with me. He tells me stuff. So that's a little bit about the book. I don't want to give too much of it away. I will say that the book, it doesn't go into some of these deeper concepts because that's not exactly what I wanted to write it for, but I'm sure that there'll be more coming because I'm evolving, and the people who read these books and who work with me are also going to be evolving. So I did try to keep it. It's a shorter book. Because when I was in grief, I couldn't read anything. My mind could not retain it. And so I had probably some of the greatest books, on grief, but they're this big. And I took one look at them and I just said, oh my gosh, no, I there's no way I'm going to get through that. So I tried to kind of keep that in mind when I was writing the book. And I also, I try to find a balance, because I'm sorry, but murder and the things I've been through, it's a heavy, heavy topic. But I didn't want to overwhelm the readers with that part of it. And I really wanted to, provide the light and the hope of, coming through that and what they could get, inspired from, hopefully.
Most definitely. Now, just again, what is the name of the book?
From Murder to Messages.
Okay, so we have Gente on Instagram asking about that and everything. So Murder to Messages, I think I just put that in the comment section over there. So you go check that out. And you said it's going to be out in December 16th, correct?
Yes. And I think as I gave you a link that has quite a bit of stuff. I have a little YouTube channel where I did an interview and some meditation for my audience. And I'm not a YouTuber, so don't expect too much from that.
Today you are, Jackie.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's like a worst nightmare for me. Technical difficulties for sure. But and there is an Instagram page for people to keep track of the book and what's going on with it and when it's going to be released. Yeah, it was a labor of love. I could have written 5,000 pages about how crappy my life was, and maybe one day I will. But it
Mhm.
just wasn't what
You gotta stop that. You gotta stop that.
but it just wasn't what it just wasn't what I feel like Devin and I wanted to do with this book. It was just really just a little beacon of one of the most horrific, unimaginable things that can happen in life to,
Right,
you know, we're I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay and more than okay. I'm helpful. I'm a light to other people. Like I
right.
can help other people that are going through some rough times too.
You're gonna help so many people with that, and everything. Now, I only have two more questions for you before I let you go. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming up here, sharing your story, your work, and the future work that you're going to be doing to help so many other people out there as well. And people know where to find you. I haven't put your information in the YouTube channel, but you have it. If you're looking for the information, I will be putting it up there after we get off. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So please get in contact with her. So my next question would be, um, if Jackie had a superpower, what would it be?
Wow. Um, I think it would be compassion.
Oh, I love that.
I
Mm,
think it would be compassion because I feel like my compassion is the reason why I'm not bitter.
I love that. It shows the evolution and the growth that you have in this moment, in this space right now, right? That's huge. That's wow. That's beautiful. Um, my second question would be, or my second thing that I would ask, if you can leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
Well, I would like to leave the audience with two things. One is that there is no death. That our consciousness survives death. And two, that when we do leave this realm, when we do exit this body, there's only love. Devin tells me all the time, Mom, like there's only love. God is love. Where I'm at is only love. And um like even just being in like a traffic jam and being irritated and frustrated, and I'm ready to cuss the guy in front of me out, and I just hear Devin. He just comes in and he's like, Mom, lighten up. This is no big deal. I promise you, like there's only love, from the biggest, catastrophe in life that can bring you, reassure me that there's only love, to the smallest thing that irritates me. So,
Yeah.
that's what I feel that Devin's message is, and why we're kind of, talking to you and writing the book, so that people will understand that there is, death it's not the end, and that after this, that there's just only love.
Mm. That definitely gives me something to look forward to in a more positive way, right? You know what I'm saying? Because if you leave this life in love and you're accepted in love, I think that is a beautiful thing. That is definitely a beautiful thing. And with that being said, Jackie, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode of the Beef Let's Talk About It podcast. Thank you for being on. And again, one more time, just for the audience, how can people find you on social media?
Well, we've got a website that's should be live in a day or two. It's JackieSuzanne.com.
Mhm.
And then they can find me. I'm mostly on Facebook. I'm old, and that's what I prefer to use. So
Understand.
yes, so you can find me on. I'm Jackie Rubio, and then I have a really beautiful group that I love leading. It's Light After Darkness on Facebook. And actually, I'm getting ready to do a free quantum healing.
Ooh.
Um, so it's definitely a good time to find me on Facebook as well.
I'm definitely gonna have to tap into that one. For everyone that's out there, I haven't gotten Jackie's information into the YouTube channel, but when you get there, I will have it up there for you guys. go there and check her out. Go there and check out across all the social media platforms. If you're interested in going to the group and really exploring your healing on a quantum level, go there and check her out. But also, don't forget that the book will be out December 16th, right? You know what I'm saying? From murder to messages. It's going to take you different places, man. So, you know what I'm saying? Let's be prepared to go there, but also be receptive of your own healing as well, right? You know what I'm saying? And as always, you guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast. And as always, I'm bringing more and more people here that's changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. You know what I'm saying? But this is where we say grief is heart-centered. So it's really important that you connect with the right people that's going to be able to help you get to where you need to be, right? You know what I'm saying? So if you have not already, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let's help get it out there a lot more. You know what I'm saying? And check out check out my other platforms that I'm on as well. You know what I'm saying? I'm on Facebook. We got the Connect Work on YouTube. You know, we got Hood Hierarchy. We got the Global Grief Network. We got all of these different platforms out there that's going to be beneficial for you guys and so much more. Okay. And again, thank you to my guests, you know what I'm saying, for being such an amazing individual, you know what I'm saying? And we got so much more that we're going to be doing outside of this. Don't forget the Adventures of Grief Guide that's going to be coming out, the animations, music. Don't forget the Grief Talk magazine. Please don't forget that. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of information in there. And we're going to keep you guys informed, keep you guys moving forward and everything. With that being said, again, nothing but love. We're going to see you guys in the next one. I am Tony Lynch, and we are out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.